Government by the people, of the people, for the people. But the people are retarded.
The best way to get something done, if it holds near and dear to you that you like to be able to, anyway, from Charlotte, another line going from in Florida down to Tampa of Putin's kleptocracy. Yeah. America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put him. The idea that lost. Let's be clear. I hear it all the time. Cumulative deficit, I can play for the programs many times over.
Well, I'm sick and tired of smart guys.
Let me start off with two words. Made in America. Made in America.
Oh, welcome back to another night of Shtick with Koolfrogg. Gets me every time. It always puts me in a good mood to start this show when I actually watch that gaff machine every single time. Let's say hi to everybody real quick. What's up, beautiful? How you doing? Good to see you. All those sitting in Discord, I see you. I know that you're there, and you know if you're listening, take your moment, bring yourself into the show for hit the like button for me, and go back to doing what you're doing. I get it. You have fun. What's up, Keith Gregory? Daisy girl, good to see. Good to see you. Moose, what is up? Yeah, I know. I'm talking to you. Talking to you. It's so good. So good. So much fun. Discord's great. It always brings so much joy and excitement to everybody's life. If you don't know how to get there, you simply go and join this channel. There's a link inside the community tab. You go hit that. You go bring yourself in there. Go through another level of scrutiny, but hey, it's all good. It's all good. I think that I seriously have like 27 articles or something up, so it's gonna take a bit to actually get through all this. So let's get moving. I think we should just do that. We should just do that. Get going. Here you go. U.S., Japan, Philippines pledge to strengthen trilateral defense capabilities. All right. Why do we need to strengthen our defense capabilities? Is there some kind of offense that we should be paying attention to? The United States, Japan, and Philippines have pledged to bolster their trilateral defense capabilities, including holding multilateral joint naval drills in the Indo-Pacific waters where the tensions have risen. Let me start off with one word, motherfucking potato. Yep. Well, good to see you, Gorgon. Good to see you. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan met with his Japanese and Philippine counterparts for the first time in Tokyo, Japan on June 15th to discuss enhancing trilateral cooperation between their countries. They discussed security challenges in South China Sea and East China Sea, including North Korea's illicit nuclear and missile programs, and reiterated the need to maintain peace in the Taiwan Strait. In the joint statement, the three officials concurred that a free and open maritime order is crucial in the Indo-Pacific region, especially given unilateral attempts to change the status quo by force or coercion. They agreed to advance trilateral defense cooperation based on the recent progress between the Philippines and the United States, though new enhanced defense cooperation agreement states between the Philippines and Japan in discussing reciprocal visits of military officials. You can bring military officials here and there, move them around, do all those things or whatever that just so happen to be doing or whatever to is showing superiority to to the seas and in the area to stop any threats, or maybe they're actually trying to actually throw show defense for any kind of potential cargo movement in and out of China. Because we know the second that we go into war with China of any sort, it's going to be bad. It's going to be bad for everybody because you're not going to have the goods that you're so used to having being shipped in and out of China into the States, which could actually be troublesome in the future. Cohagen says, "Happy Sunday, y'all. Happy Father's Day. Happy Father's Day here in the States to any and all of those dads." Mad Core Mofo. What is up, brother? Good to see you. Good to see you. They plan to hold trilateral exchanges among their national security sectors in the coming months to further expand cooperation and information sharing. Sullivan said the new trilateral framework is part of multiple alliances involving the United States and the Indo-Pacific region, including three-way cooperation with Japan and South Korea, and the Quad Security Dialogue of Australia, India, and Japan. I would say different groupings may have different points of priority and emphasis, but actually, what we're finding is an agenda that is expanding because of the way the world is shrinking. Wait a minute here. Now it's shrinking. First, it's not a globe, it's flat, it's this, it's that, it's the other, and now it's shrinking. How horrible. Just horrible. Stop it. Quit making up words. But, as far as agendas go, when it comes down to it, being part of either one of these, either the trilateral with Japan, South Korea, or the Quad with Australia, India, and Japan. Now, which is weird in itself that Japan gets to actually be in both of them, but for whatever, South Korea, Australia, and India don't want anything to do with each other. I mean, I would almost think that they would actually want something to do with each other, and that they're willing to protect any and all through and through. Almost moronic to start war with our supplier. Exactly. It's really past moronic and really close to being within idiocy when it comes down to it. It just is something you just don't do. Meanwhile, Japanese Prime Minister oh, wait a minute here before I actually move on. Thinking about our supplier for what? Supplier for almost all home goods, military might, because each and every single one of those fabricators that actually whether it be Raytheon or I can't think of all the other ones off the top of my head at the moment or whatever. They all have Chinese affiliates. So most of our military might isn't really produced here in the States. It's actually produced in China. So is it when you think about it, you really seriously have to boil it down to all of it and actually realize what it is that they're actually supplying. Meanwhile, Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida received a courtesy call from Philippine National Security Advisor Eduardo Ano on June 15th, in which Kishida expressed his desire for closure cooperation with the Philippines to tackle common geopolitical challenges. Like what? ESG? I mean, what are we getting at? Why does everything have to go political? And why? I just don't get it. Well, critical components. Well, right. However you want to look at it, right? When you actually think about it, it's just like they supply so much for almost any and everything that that all these companies do have major ties to China. like almost endless supplies to China when it comes down to it. You just really seriously, you're taking away building anything in the near future if we don't have the abilities to do it ourselves, and we actually depend on places like China to do such a thing. That could actually be cutting our own throats at the same time. Defense ministers talks, the trilateral talks came from the defense ministers of the United States, Japan, and Philippines. And Australia held their first quadrilateral talks on the sidelines of Shangri-La Dialogue Defense Summit on June 3rd. I believe back on June 3rd, we actually did cover this in particular, the whole Shangri-La Dialogue and what was actually going on and around the area, and what that was actually going to entail, and what it would actually um, do to us as a means of being somebody that's going to overlook the means of what happens in Taiwan or Taiwan or however you want to name it. Foreign missiles and such, it's insane. Yeah, there's so much. There's so much that they actually produce. Uh, these other companies are at the top there, on the tip of my tongue, and I really seriously, like, for whatever reason, can't spit them out for whatever reason. It's just not happening right at the moment. But it's we know what companies are actually out there that actually produce our military might, or components thereof. So it will just kind of move on a little bit, sorta. We're not going too far away from where we were. We're gonna still stay in China for the moment because one of our own actually took a trip. Mr. Anthony Blinken kicks off meetings in Beijing on mission to manage tensions with CCP. So, Anthony Blinken goes ahead and he sets up a trip to China and actually goes and visits them. The U.S. Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, on Sunday kicked off 2 days of high stake diplomatic talks in Beijing after months of urging by the Biden administration for the Chinese Communist Party to reestablish normal bilateral communications. Normal bilateral communications, like any, and it's a reestablishment, so it's like any and all communications already been severed. Where most of the communications not being there's like no communication whatsoever. We weren't talking to them, they weren't talking to us. Was it just military wise? Was it there's so many other thoughts to go along with it when you actually think about it. It kind of scary and very disturbing to actually believe what's actually happening. So this is Blinken opened his program by meeting Chinese Foreign Minister Qin Gang for an extended discussion on following the working dinner. He'll have additional talks with Qin on, well, as well as China's top diplomat Wang Yi and possibly Chinese leader Xi Jinping on Monday. So we'll hear more, as today was just the start of this meeting. So tomorrow, Monday for us, will be technically day 2 of him actually Blinken actually being in Beijing and speaking with these leaders, these diplomats, and trying to figure out how to actually, not disturb the world and actually continue to speak with each other. That could be bad if things just don't go the way we want them to, or maybe they are going the way they want them to, and it's a setup, and they're going to actually go ahead and do whatever they need to do to eliminate us. We don't know. We have no clue. They're just working for us. That's all that happens. It'd be cool if they just kept that guy. I mean, or any other goings on could happen, and we could just be all up in arms, being like, he's gone. Neither Blinken nor Keen uh, made any substantive comments to report as they began the meeting at the Diatu State Guest House. Despite Blinken's presence in the Chinese capital, prospects for any significant breakthroughs are slim, as already strained ties have grown increasingly fraught in recent years. Blinken is the highest level American official to set foot in China since President Joe Biden took office in 2021, and the first Secretary of State to visit since 2018, when his predecessor, Mike Pompeo, visited China for 1 day. Blinken's trip was previously scheduled in February, but it was postponed after Washington shot down a Chinese surveillance balloon flying over the U.S. airspace on February 4th. Since then, high-level communications have been rare. So it's just the high-level communications that are rare. So there's still some communication that's going on. So they're obviously still allowing production of goods to actually be, shipped in and out, as the world continues to evolve around this in particular, because it seems like it's fairly important. I'm pretty sure that the United States isn't the only ones that are that would be affected the second that something did happen. China has refused regular military communications despite repeated attempts by the U.S. officials to engage. Biden, before boarding Air Force One at Joint Base Andrews in Maryland on Saturday morning, told reporters that he believes China has some legitimate difficulties unrelated to the United States. Nothing wrong. Nothing wrong on that side of it. No, legitimate difficulties. Bernie Mac. Hello, Koolfrogg. Long time no here. Welcome back. Good to see you. Glad you're around. I don't know if I remember you. If I don't, I apologize. But yeah, it's still good to see you. Oh, yeah. I remember that channel. All right. No, I got you. Double G. Exactly. One of the things that the balloon caused was not so much that it got shot down, but I don't think the Chinese leadership knew where it was and knew what was in it and knew what was going on. I think it was more embarrassing than it was intentional. He added, possibly pointing to ongoing disunity within the CCP's ranks between long-warring factions of the party. And so, I'm hoping that over the next several months, I'll be meeting with Xi again and talking about legitimate differences we have, but also how there's areas we can get along. Well, of course, there has to be some ways that we get along. We can't not get along with them. If we're not going to get along with them, it's not going to be long before they take a strong foothold here in the mainland of the United States. 3 main objectives. Speaking to the news conference on Friday before departing to Beijing, Blinken said the trip had 3 main objectives: set up mechanisms for crisis management, advancing U.S. and allies' interests, and speaking directly about related concerns, and exploring areas of potential cooperation. I like how they put, how they split the advanced U.S. allies' interests in speaking directly with related concerns, and then exploring areas of potential cooperation. Obviously we want, the cooperation to continue. We don't want, to strain the relationship between us and the, Chinese Communist Party or China in itself. Being that, like we've emphasized several times now, is, they're a main producer of most of our goods. that would really, be cutting our own neck when it come down to it. We don't want that. We don't want that to ever happen. Though we might be, better off actually bringing some of these businesses back to the homeland states here, and allowing us to, um, start processing our own goods like we should have been for how long, as opposed to actually outsourcing it and having stuff cost even more than it should. If you want to make sure, as we do, that the competition that we have with China doesn't veer into conflict, the place you start is with communicating, Blinken said. He said he would also be raising the issue of U.S. citizens detained in China on charges Washington sees as politically motivated. Um, Supposed U.S. citizens that are detained, I really don't know. There hasn't really been any names of U.S. citizens that have actually been brought to the forefront, but there's been plenty of Chinese nationals that have been here in the States that have actually been brought to the forefront, and we've actually talked about them before. So, who they're actually holding for political motivations is kind of interesting to actually understand. Who is it? Who is it that we're actually concerned that they actually have detained? Whoever it is that is detained, hopefully they're safe, and or maybe not. Depends on who it is. Prospects for major breakthroughs are dim as ties between the two countries already become increasingly strained in recent years over the wide range of issues as the CCP more overtly pursues its socialist worldview. But there's an expectation that Blinken's visit will pave the way for more bilateral meetings in the coming months, including possible trips by U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen and Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo. It could also set the stage for a meeting between Xi and Biden at a multilateral summit later in the year. So this is just setting the stage to hopefully be able to bring the likeness of Janet Yellen or Gina Raimondo uh, into China to actually allow them to actually speak with people for whatever reason to actually continue to. Yeah, I mean, a Treasury Secretary. That's Janet Yellen. She's horrible. I really hate her. She's disturbing. I really do. I don't know enough about Gina to actually say the same. But we've actually talked about Janet Yellen several times, and I don't really care for her thoughts or her opinions on anything. I really don't like the current administration in itself. It could also set the stage for meetings between Xi and Biden in multilateral summits later in the year. Uh, it could. Is it not, something that you'd really actually try, pushing to actually get them in the same room? Biden says that, that we shouldn't be worried. Said at the very beginning we shouldn't be worried about China. China's our friends. China's all good. So as far as that goes, it's kind of concerning to actually believe that this could set the stage, and they'd have issues actually getting together. I would think that there shouldn't be an issue of Xi sitting in Joe Biden's back pocket would actually be able to show up in the same room and get along with each other. Blinken's not bright. No, of course he's not. She will tear the Biden regime up. I hope they don't meet. I mean, we've seen the gaff machine of Joe Biden. We're actually going to see. We'll look at some more of the gaff machine here shortly as we move through the night. Says concerns that our United States and China relations may devolve into kinetic war. Any escalation between the two largest economies in the world would majorly impact global security and stability of multiple fronts, from financial markets to trade routes and practices of global supply chains. That's pretty, pretty big, bold of them to actually say that these are the two largest economies currently. Really seriously, they're writing off Russia in a whole. Now, I'm not saying that Russia's one or two in themselves, But I'm really concerned that the United States is still considered one of the largest economies in the world, as we've watched what this current administration has done to us, uh, with with just what everything that they've touched, from fuel supplies to um, inflation rates. It just in supply chain in itself, there's just so much that could be squandered very, very quickly if they don't pay attention to what's actually happening with China. China. It's all about China. The CCP has been preparing its military and population for conflict. Twice in the past month, Xi has warned the Chinese people that they must prepare for extreme scenarios. Likewise, the regime is attempting to build up its domestic industrial economic base in order to ensure continued operation in the event of war. And it's interesting that they would actually, tell their people that they need to actually ramp up and be prepared for any extreme scenario, and at the same time, and I'd been seeing a bunch of stuff on Twitter, and taking it with a grain of salt, as I really don't know specifically if it's new or if it's old footage, but there's been plenty of footage that's been going around showing movement, military might here and around the states, in large troves, like uh, uh, you know, almost any kind of motorized vehicle, trains full of tanks, aircraft flying around in mass squads. It's really kind of scary to actually think. Russia economy is smaller than China, or smaller than California. I mean, is it? Do we know that for sure? Because really seriously, I wouldn't be surprised if their economy is not a little bit larger than the projected. As most people are actually thinking that Russia's in the wrong for what they're doing to and around Ukraine. Can I continue to move on here with China? Few more things to go along with it. So this is kind of getting close to homeland here. Yes, larger than projected. Yeah, I would assume so. Exclusive Chinese intel arm quietly operates service centers in 7 U.S. cities. Huh, right here in the U.S. They're not so far away, are they? A Chinese intelligence agency quietly operates service centers in 7 American cities, all in which have had contact with Beijing's National Police Authority, according to the state media reports in the government. Records reviewed by the Daily Caller News Foundation, the Chinese Communist Party United Work Department, which is at least one U.S. government commission, is characterized as the Chinese intelligence service, operates so-called overseas Chinese service centers that are housed within various U.S.-based nonprofits. OCSCs are ostensibly set up to promote Chinese culture and assist Chinese citizens living abroad, according to the Chinese government records. State media reports, Chinese government records, and social media posts show that during the 2018 trip to China, U.S.-based OCSC representatives met with the Ministry of Public Security officials. During that meeting, state security officials demonstrated how they're leveraging new technology to conduct cross-border remote justice services. MPS is China's National Police Authority and has been referred to as the China's FBI by China experts. The U.S. Department of Justice says MPS also conducts covert intelligence and national security operations far beyond China's borders, including illicit transnational repression schemes on U.S. soil. So they're right here. They're right here in our own backyard, and we're just going to continue to look past it. We can't continue to look past it. We need to actually pay attention to what's actually happening. where these service stations actually are that are supposedly helping Chinese nationals on their days abroad from their own country. In April 2023, the DOJ charged two men with allegedly opening a secret police station in New York in behalf of MPS in order to monitor and intimidate dissidents and others critical of China. There's no evidence US-based service centers operate as or house secret police stations, and the DOJ has yet to mention these entities in any statements of legal filings. Nonetheless, OCSC's association with China United Front System in contact with MPS raised red flags for legal and intelligence experts. The national security threat is real. Will Mackey, a career federal prosecutor and former trial attorney for the counterintelligence section of DOJ's National Security Division, told the DCNF. Simply put, we should know which foreign government agents, including unofficial actors, are operating in our country for whatever reason. Mackey said it added in the American nonprofits performing Chinese governmental duties in inconsistent and diplomatic protocol, if not illegal. If not illegal. Go figure. After an extensive review of Chinese government and the state-run media reports, the DCNF identified OCSC branches in San Francisco, California, Houston, Texas, Omaha, Nebraska, St. Paul, Minnesota, Salt Lake City, Utah, St. Louis, Missouri, and Charlotte, North Carolina. Just a couple few small little cities, nothing big, right? Now, I don't know the exact population of a lot of these cities. I know the exact population, or roughly thereabout, of St. Paul. It's 280,000 people. And they're going to go ahead and they're going to actually go and run a little OCSC out of, these cities, out of each one of these cities. And they're going to actually go ahead and do what with them? They're going to actually go ahead and look at the people that are, against China, and they're going to continue to do whatever they can to persuade these people to actually look at China as not being somebody that they should be feared or scared of. So when it comes down to it, it's really kind of disturbing to actually believe that any of this is occurring. GOP lawmakers expressed serious concern of OCSCs operating in the U.S. These centers aren't there to help people get a business license or help resolve a domestic dispute. Utah Republican Rep Chris Stewart, a member of House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, told the DCNF they're here to pressure, to use coercion and to use malicious influence. Tennessee Republican Marsha Blackburn told the DCNF it was a direct violation of our nation's sovereignty for the CCP to set up shop on our soils to threaten, surveil, and kidnap Chinese American citizens without a dissenting opinion. Which in itself is kind of disturbing that they would actually go to this point of threatening, surveilling, kidnapping Chinese American citizens. They're just going to go after and be like, okay, now that we have you, what are they going to do with them? Are they going to send them back to where they came from? Maybe, as a young boy, I grew up in a cul-de-sac area or whatever, and our neighbors actually had adopted 3 Chinese. So I grew up, in a fairly diverse area in itself, and got along with these people very, very well. So now all of a sudden, they're going to go after the potential Chinese Americans or whatever and kidnap them. If I found out that my neighbors as a kid are actually kidnapped, I'd be like, no, wait a minute, they're not really Chinese Americans really when it comes down to it. They were raised here in the States from such a young age that they're more American than you'd like to think. They seriously do the same things that you and I do on a daily basis. Is nothing really different. 8 great plans. The service centers in the heart of the largest CCP global influence strategy known as the 8 great plans of benefiting overseas Chinese, which are first announced during the 2014 speech. 2014. There's so many things that happened in 2014. 2014 is just a year synonymous for bullshit. Russia's not in the wrong at all. I'm kind of with you on that one, Bernie. Love America, but we are the baddies in this case. Of course we are. Of course we are. With all the monies that we send out of here, and we're going to send more. We're going to continue to send more. China wouldn't let this happen. Chinese people are great. It's a CCP that is not good. But it seems as the CCP is actually going ahead and they're actually going after these Chinese Americans and going after them for any kind of dissenting opinion, and probably trying to train them to actually think differently and believe in what they want to believe in. They don't like the Western. The CCP doesn't like the United States. They don't like Western values, though those values have pretty much diminished in the recent past. DOJ is trash. I believe that. According to Chinese government documents and reports from China experts, the UFWD took control of overseas Chinese Affairs Office in 2018. The U.S.-China Economic Security and Review Commission describes the UFWD as the CCP organ responsible for coordinating foreign and domestic influence operations, as well as the Chinese intelligence service. UFWD's overseas Chinese work aims to co-opt ethnic Chinese individuals and communities living outside of China, while a number of other key affiliated organizations guided by China's broader United Front strategy conduct influence operations targeting foreign actors and states, according to the commission. The Overseas Chinese Affairs Office Director Cheng Zhu also serves as UFWD's deputy director, according to the Chinese government. Kang Wang reported Cheng Zhu spoke at conference held in Beijing in May that included OCSC officials from around the world. The conference was jointly sponsored by Overseas Chinese Affairs Office and All China Federation and Returned Overseas Chinese, a key united front group, according to China experts. In the next 5 years, relying on overseas Chinese organizations that have the public's trust, we will guide the support in the construction of overseas Chinese service centers in cities where overseas Chinese are concentrated and where there are urgent need for constructing harmonious overseas Chinese communities. So we said her in 2014 speech. So, in 2014, they were already speaking of doing such a thing. 2014, like I kind of said before, is kind of really synonymous in itself when you think about it. Building of cages, allowing and ushering in things like BLM, reasons why we don't look at any of these other communities as anything different, because the division that's been sown by the United States government itself really has made things horrible. It's amazing how many people don't actually just get along with each other like we used to. Shortly thereafter, the Overseas Chinese Affairs Office provided initial funding to establish OCSC's branches around the world and tasked them with a variety of seemingly mundane duties in support of China's foreign ministry. According to Chinese state-run media and government reports, duties range from processing Chinese passport and travel permit applications to so-called consular protection activities, and include emergency medical and disaster response work, according to reports. Despite the directive, the Chinese embassy and spokesperson told the DCNF that the centers are simply formed by warm-hearted volunteers and have no affiliation with any Chinese government agency. Since 2014, OCSCs have expanded in at least 60 locations worldwide, according to multiple reports from King Wang. the Chinese news service that acts as propaganda arm for the Overseas Chinese Affairs Office, Xinhuang, reports also reveal that Overseas Chinese Affairs Office efforts to establish service centers in at least 7 U.S. cities. In September 2014, the Overseas Chinese Affairs Office held the first of 4 annual award ceremonies in Beijing for OCSC's branches, according to Xinhuang. During the ceremony, the Chinese American Association of Commerce in San Francisco, California, and it was announced as the first U.S. OCSC branch, Xinhuang reported. Overseas Chinese Affairs Office announced in 2015 that the Chinese Civic Center in Houston, Texas would also house an OCSC. A Chinese state-run media outlet reported Xi Jinping personally attended the grand opening of the Houston OCSC in February 2016, according to the Chinese government. In September 2016, the Overseas Chinese Affairs Office unveiled more OCSC's locations, including one in Omaha, Nebraska. Xinhuang reported the Omaha OCSC is housed within the Nebraska Chinese Association, according to Xinhuang. According to this newspaper, this news site that's out there, this Xinhuang is their news cycle. So it's not a particular person; it's actually a business of sorts. Overseas Chinese Affairs Office also announced the Chinese American Association of Minnesota in St. Paul, which houses an OCSC branch in 2016. The group co-director received commemorative plaque in October 2016, according to Xinhuang. In September 2017, the Overseas Chinese Affairs Office announced the final batch of service centers, including one in Salt Lake City, Utah, according to Xinhuang. The Salt Lake City OCSC is located within Utah Chinese Civic Center, according to the group's website. The Utah Chinese Civic Center's website also states that it hosts an OCSC that's licensed by Overseas Chinese Affairs Office. The Overseas Chinese Affairs Office also establishes an OCSC in St. Louis, Missouri, according to them. The St. Louis Service Center is located within the Chinese Education of Culture Center. The top Chinese consulate official in Chicago attended a branch opening ceremony, according to the consulate's website. The final U.S. OCSC location announced during the 2017 ceremony in Charlotte, North Carolina, according to them. The Charlotte OCSC is housed within the Carolinas Chinese Chamber of Commerce, according to the report. The Chinese American Association of Commerce and Chinese Civic Center, Utah, the Chinese American Association of Minnesota and St. Louis Chinese Education Culture Center did not respond to multiple requests for comment. Why would they want to talk to us? They don't want to talk to us. They don't want anything to do with us. Not suspicious at all. Mm-hmm. Receptionist in Houston's Chinese Civic Center confirmed the organization hosted a Chinese service center in a phone call that the DCNF. Similarly, a woman who only identified herself as an associate in the Nebraska Chinese Association confirmed the organization housed a Chinese center while speaking with the DCNF. When the DCNF called the Carolinas Chinese Chamber of Commerce, a man who identified himself as a founding member of the Charlotte Chinese Service Center answered the phone. He confirmed the service center was housed within the Charlotte-based nonprofit. Overseas Chinese police contact points, Chinese government records, and state-run media reports reveal that the U.S.-based OCSC representatives met with officials from China's Ministry of Public Security. The FBI has accused the ministry of conducting transnational repression schemes in the U.S. targeting Chinese descendants and human rights activists. MPS most notorious transnational repression scheme in Operation Fox Hunt. The operation used unsanctioned, unilateral, and illegal practices, including coercion, extortion, and intimidation, to forcibly reparate alleged Chinese criminals living overseas, according to the 2020 DOJ complaint. Between 2014 and 2018, the Overseas Chinese Affairs Office sponsored a series of China trips for OCSC officials. According to the Chinese government, the state-run media reports during these visits, participants frequently discussed how OCSC's branches could assist Chinese law enforcement while abroad. The Overseas China's Affairs Office convened an OCSC conference in Beijing in January 2018 that featured multiple work meetings across China focused on international law enforcement, according to multiple Chinese state media reports. Representatives from all 7 of the U.S.-based OCSCs attended the Beijing conference, according to multiple reports from conference and photos reviewed by the DCNF. In Beijing, the Overseas Chinese Affairs Office head Qi Yongping announced the improving legal services and developing an online platform would be among her organization's annual goals. On the third day of the conference, OCSC's representatives traveled to Xinjiang province and met with MPS officials as police station that serves as nerve center of multiple overseas Chinese police contact points around the world. Representatives from all 7 U.S.-based OCSCs visited Xinjiang police station, according to the state media reports and government social media posts. During the visit, OCSC's official posed for photos that uniformed MPS officers and participated in a series of demonstrations of the MPS's developed internet plus law enforcement platform. The MPS platform provides cross-border remote justice services for overseas Chinese, according to the China News Service, and the Kiwang reports. In one demonstration, the Zhejiang police station used the MPS platform to contact special duty police officers in Milan, Italy, according to, they're not just here in the United States. They're almost everywhere. They're almost everywhere in almost any other country that you could probably think of. I doubt that Milan, Italy is the only other place that there's a particular OCSC. It's really kind of disturbing to actually believe where in all places that China really actually is, where they're stationed and where they're actually going after Chinese nationals to propagate them into potentially coming after us here, right here in the States themselves. Just be like, all right, we need you to activate, go do what we need you to do. Take out as many as you can while in the process. These special duty police officers then delivered a report that operations of the Overseas Chinese Affairs Office. Following the video call, an Overseas Chinese Affairs Office official instructed the OCSC representatives to learn from the police station's model in order to better provide for well-being of overseas Chinese, according to the Chinese government in social media post. The OCSC delegation also visited an extraterritorial video trial court specializing in domestic affairs, according to Xinjiang court's social media account. OCSC representatives participated in an international video call in the court's overseas Chinese police contact point in France, according to the report from United Front Organization. During this call, police contact points officials in France, several of whom belong to an OCSC in Paris, explained how they use MPS technology to remotely handle legal matters such as divorces and property disputes, according to the United Front Group. The extraterritorial video trial court has tried 77 international cases and mediated 18 disputes using the virtual MPS platform, according to January 2018 social media post from the court. The post did not elaborate with the specifics in any litigation enforcement of the international legal judgments. After the court call, an overseas Chinese Affairs Office official leading the OCSC delegation called on attendees to learn from the court's experience and build a global internet legal service to realize the Chinese people's dreams. The court reported it is unknown whether or not U.S. service centers now utilize any of the technology showcased during the visit of the MPS officials, but detail of the trip alarmed national security experts who spoke with the DCNF. This is internationalization of monitoring and control, said Steve Yates, former deputy national security advisor and former vice president, and Dick Cheney, an organized government effort to extend sovereign government operations internationally and to use charitable and affinity organizations as the cover through which to engage in espionage and police activity crosses a pretty significant line. I'm glad that the likeness of somebody like Dick Cheney was able to actually explain to them how to actually use charitable and affinity organizations to cover themselves and to show no engagement whatsoever. It's kind of sad and disturbing in itself that we're just going to go ahead and we're going to help them out, do whatever it is that they're doing here in the States. Chinese government and state-run media reports indicate that OCSC branches outside the U.S. often perform law enforcement functions, including by serving the MPS overseas Chinese police contact points and conducting armed patrols in a number of countries, such as South Africa. Several OCSC's branches outside the U.S. also house MPS police stations in Fuzhou province of Dublin, Ireland. According to social media account, the Dublin OCSC and its office is designed to assist Chinese nationals in government services, including issuing overseas ID card renewals and conducting physical exams for driver's licenses. I don't care what it's being used for. We know damn well it's not used for just that. It's used so that those Chinese nationals that should be traveling back to their own country after so long to be taken care of whatever issues that need to be taken care of when it comes to ID cards and driver's licenses or whatever. They're being allowed to actually just stay here. They just go hit up one of these OCSCs. They take care of their business, and they're like, "Oh, time to go walk around in the streets of the United States some more without repercussion." There is, however, no evidence that U.S.-based service centers host MPS police stations like the one the FBI raided in New York City last year. No evidence. No evidence that these exist other than the one that they just so happened to raid last year. Excuse me? What? Huh? I went to get my 10-year visa in San Francisco last week. I got it. Nice. Texas Republican Rep. Morgan Luttrell, who is a member of the subcommittee in intelligence and special operations, characterized the OCSC's program as a serious national security threat, as the Chinese government uses every tool at its disposal to infiltrate the U.S. and grow its influence on the global stage. We must take bold action to counter the CCP's malign activity, Luttrell told the DCNF. I mean, I don't know if there's anything more that I really need to actually point out of that. Hey, Shiloh, man. Good to see you, dude. Good to see you. Glad you're here. 22 people watching. Hit that like button if you haven't done so already. That'd be awesome. Thank you all so much for being here. We're going to move on. So then, not too much international news. It was brought to my attention about some goings on in Canada. I'll be back. Yeah, okay. So yeah, I'm back. Sorry about that. That was a glitch on my end. Hopefully Bernie Mac didn't actually take off and really think that that was the end of the show. That wasn't the end of the show. That was nowhere near the end of the show. I got so much more to go. So then it was brought to my attention that there's some goings on with Trudeau in Canada. Um, I really seriously need to look into it deeper and actually pay attention to it a little bit more, uh, to what was actually going on. You know what happened is my computer takes a crap after a little while if I have too many resources being used. If you want to help me actually replace it, that would be wonderful. Go ahead, donate to the channel as much as you possibly can. That would be great. I'd love to actually not have this issue. That'd be something that I'd really, really appreciate. It sucks all so much to actually deal with this particular issue over and over again, every single day. Here we go. So let's continue. So it says Donald Trump, any Republican vote against Schiff's censure should immediately be primaried. So when it comes down to it, Adam Schiff was actually brought up to actually be censured, and for whatever reason they overlooked it. They just so happened to go against it and actually just leave him alone. I like how they actually use former President Donald Trump to call on Republicans voting against the censure of Adam Schiff to be primaried. I've really still with Trump for the most, but at the same time, there's a lot of goings on that are currently happening, and it's kind of disturbing to actually believe this is what is actually going on. So Trump posted to True Social, Anna Polina Luna is a star. She never gives up, especially on holding total low lifes like Adam Shifty Schiff, responsible for their lies, deceit, deception, and actually putting our country at great risk, for which we should be imprisoned. He is the leaker and a scoundrel. Any Republican voting against his censure or worse should immediately be primaried. There are plenty of great candidates out there. Uh, you know, Going into this 2024 season, as we actually, ramp up, get really close to it, there's going to be a lot more stuff that's actually going to be happening and occurring. And, maybe we'll be paying attention to, this particular area that Adam Shifty Shift comes out of, and we can actually maybe do just that in primary his butt. Last week, Rep. Anna Polina Luna introduced a resolution to censor Schiff and recommended $16 million fine. Now, we kind of covered this, that, the $16 million fine would be great. And it sounded like she actually did have, most of the support that she needed. It seems as though a bunch of them backed out. And whoever it was that backed out, them rhinos need to be looked at. 20 Republicans voted with Democrats to kill the measure, as reported by Breitbart News. Some, such as Rep. Thomas Massey, Republican of Kentucky, said the fine was unconstitutional. Luna plans to reintroduce the resolution in the coming week, but reportedly without the fine. She told Schiff last week and also tweeted, "See you next week, Adam." Ooh, is that a threat? She threatening him? Sounds like it, doesn't it? Her resolution seeks to censure and condemn Schiff for his role of pushing the Russia collusion hoax and being impeachment manager for the first of Trump's impeachment hearings in the Hill. Schiff claimed numerous times with the House Intelligence Committee chairman that he had circumstantial evidence that Trump and his campaign colluded with Russia to win the 2016 election. Special counsel Robert Mueller did not find evidence of any criminal wrongdoing. Luna's resolution also accuses Schiff of fundraising off a false claim and called for him to be fined half of the $32 million that he had spent looking into collusion. During the impeachment hearing, Schiff recited a made-up conversation between Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and held secret witness interviews in the Capitol basement. Trump was acquitted by the Senate. It's very kind of interesting and disturbing in itself to actually think that, Schiffus is going to continue to go after Trump no matter what. Seriously, his TDS is so bad right now. It's disgusting. I'm sick of hearing about people talk about him. If you really seriously want the guy to go away, you got to do opposite of what they're actually doing. Quit thrusting him in our faces up in front of us and saying this is what's going on. We're going to bring him up in this charge, that charge, and the other. Stop talking about him. Stop talking about him. The second you stop talking about him, he stops making media. He stops making the media, and then what? Then what? Oh, we don't think about him as much. That being said, my Trump 2024 flag still hangs right behind me. It's still there. Just saying. You're not going to convince me. You're really not going to convince me, any other way to vote for anybody else at this point in time. I need to hear a lot more. If I had to go vote today, you're damn right. I'm going to vote yet one more time, a third time in a row, for that same guy. So then there's a couple of potential nominees for GOP that are actually for Trump in his for different reasoning. So as DeSantis takes Trump's side, vows to overhaul DOJ after indictment, mortal threat to free society. Republican presidential contender Ron DeSantis vowed on Friday to take on what he sees as a corrupted two-tier justice system in the wake of indictment against former President Donald Trump, should the Florida governor win the White House. In a tweet, DeSantis ripped the weaponization of federal law enforcement and added that it became a threat to the country and appeared to come to Trump's defense. The weaponization of federal law enforcement represents a mortal threat to the free society. We have for years witnessed an uneven application of the law depending upon political affiliation. Why so zealous in pursuing Trump, yet so passive about Hillary or Hunter? The DeSantis administration will bring accountability to the DOJ, excise political bias, and end weaponization once and for all. Out of all the things that he did say, he didn't really say that he would actually help Trump out if he actually did get in trouble. Another GOP presidential hopeful, Tim Scott, also decried the indictment, which reeks of politicization. Jesus. One thing that makes America a city on the hill is confidence in our justice system. And today, what we see is a justice system where the scales are awaited. That seems to be the outcome where we are today, Scott told Fox News. As president of the United States, I would purge all of the injustice and impurities of our system so that every American can have confidence that they will be seen by the Lady Justice and blindfolded with a blindfold on. That is what we need in this nation. Representative Mike Collins added, America's crossed the Rubicon. A sitting president of the United States weaponizing federal law enforcement and the justice system, attack his political opponent. A former president of the United States reeks of third world institutional decay. President Biden is indicting President Trump for having classified documents, which is ironic since Biden had similar documents strewn about the garage in Delaware, among other places, before he became president. He noted further, our current two-tier justice system is lost in the faith and the trust of the American people, and who wonders why? Over and over in recent years, we have seen the FBI harassing anyone who dare oppose the left's socialist agenda, including concerned parents at school board meetings, pro-life activists, peaceful J6 protesters, and so many more, while ignoring the crimes of the Biden family. Hunter Biden is on video committing several federal crimes, and the entire family appears to have been taking bribes from China. It is time for Congress to rein in the FBI and DOJ and impeach President Biden, Attorney General Garland, and Director Wray. The Republicans, some of the Trump's indictment came the same day that they were able to review an FBI document from the highly credible source that purportedly implicates President Joe Biden in a multi-million-dollar bribery scheme involving a Ukrainian energy official. This is an impeachable document. President Biden should be impeached. Secondly, he should be prosecuted. This is unbelievable. It's a pay-for-play scheme and took a bribe from a foreign national for a foreign country that paid millions of dollars, Marjorie Taylor Greene said Friday. He needs to be prosecuted for this, and I would argue that he should serve jail time. If we are not politically divided, if we were in the United States and used to exist, that is righteous and just, if we were a just nation, Joe Biden would be impeached. No one could argue with that. Democrat or Republican. I would say no one can argue with it now, she added. Marjorie Taylor Greene, based as she can be, just pretty much throwing it out there and being like, nah, we need to actually, take him down, go after him, prosecute him for his pay-for-play schemes. All of that is very, very horrible and bad. And, not a single one of them really saying that if they're running for president, that they'd actually, say that it was okay that he had done what he had done and would actually let him off the hook out of these bunch anyway. Because then you got this guy. This guy actually says that he would actually go to the point of actually pardoning Trump for any and everything that would actually come up as he would actually take the seat. It says GOP presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy pledges to pardon Trump, dismantle FBI administrative state. GOP presidential contender Vivek Ramaswamy, who pledged to pardon former President Trump if elected, also plans to dismantle the FBI. He told Fox News Sunday, Shannon Bream, fuck Fox, when the Department of Justice weaponizes police force against people based on their political viewpoints, that already undermines trust in the justice system. Ramaswamy said that when asked if his plans to dismantle government institutions like the FBI could cause lasting damage. Under my watch, we'll make sure FBI, first of all, doesn't exist as an institution. Yes. Abolish all three-letter agencies. As we say that, you could actually take America's Shirts or first.com, only the most base shirts on the planet. Use promo code Koolfrogg and get 15% off anything in that store. Yes, the most based shirts. Abolish the FBI. Yep, got it. He's got one of those. I'm telling you. Speaking of shirts, I don't know where he is at. What's been going on? He should have been around. Hopefully, he's doing okay and just staying busy. When you have large bureaucracies and sit between local and federal law enforcement agencies, that's a formula for corruption. Ramaswamy said in a position opposing the FBI, going after political conservatives like President Trump was not motivated by his own political calculus, since he would have a much easier time, frankly, in this election if President Trump weren't in the race. The FBI is not the only agency in Ramaswamy's chopping block. By the time I'm out of office, we will again have 3 branches of government in the U.S., not 4, that will shut down the regulatory state, shackling the U.S.'s energy sector. There are 2 genders. God is real. Fossil fuels are a requirement in human prosperity, Ramaswamy said, naming some fundamental tenets he espouses, but says some of the GOP dare not speak aloud. He added that expressing his position on fossil fuels got him censored on Microsoft-owned LinkedIn. We're not here actually, going along with anything that he believes in. We're just kind of just reading this news article. Just saying. Ramaswamy. Hey, Barton Bella. How you doing? Did we cross the Rubicon with the last indictment? Ramaswamy is one of Jared Kushner's best friends. He also paid millions to get his ties to Soros, and the clot shot erased. And as we speak of such things, when it comes down to it, yeah, I mean, it does seem like we've actually gone ahead and actually crossed that Rubicon. It really does seem that way. And as far as doing well, doing well. As far as Ramaswamy goes, it really doesn't sound like he's actually running for a position of office. It sounds more like he's actually trying to contend for uh, to be part of Trump's administration. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Ramaswamy did not express any particular concern over those who find his own or former President Trump's use of phrase "American nationalists" troublesome. It means we stand for the ideals of the nation into motion, meritocracy, and pursuit of excellence, the rule of law, free speech, open debate, self-governance. He said defending the use of the phrase some find controversial. Ramaswamy, a millennial, said he is concerned that American youth are no longer proud to be American. The solution, in Ramaswamy's view, is to focus on reviving civic pride in the next generation, or hold classes like civics classes in all schools, whatever, teach them about government and teach them how things actually do work, and maybe they won't be so ignorant to the point. A piece of the National Review, April 10th, accused Ramaswamy of building a ginormous mailing list rather than actually running for president, also suggesting he doesn't quite know about conservatism, though he speaks of it eloquently. That's laughable, he said, adding that he had put more than $10 million of his own money into his campaign so far. The idea that this is a profitable for me is actually a joke. Ramaswamy rounded up the interview by warning businesses against wading into social disputes, citing the recent issue that sent Bud Light spiraling. It's bad for our civics culture in our country because what we need is an apolitical spaces that bring people together. Well, capitalism is bad for capitalism, but it also bad for American democracy. Watch Republican presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy's interview on Fox News Sunday's anchor Shannon Bring below. We're not going to watch it. We're not going to watch it. As far as that goes, Vivek Ramaswamy actually going to the point of actually, going along with most conservative beliefs as it goes, and saying that he will just do this here of pardoning Trump in itself could actually give him a slight leg up to other competitors. Though, if you look at polls, it's still looking as though Trump is higher in polls than most. You're right. I like him. I just don't see him as serious, if you know what I mean. Yep. He doesn't really seem like he's actually running for president. He seems like he's running for administration for Donald Trump. Not even like vice president, even, whatever. He really seriously just seems as though, maybe hit up some kind of admin role. We'll see what happens as things actually progress and as they move on. So then this guy, this rhino, I really don't care for this guy. I really don't. Ted Cruz spills beans on FBI, reveals why agency's gone so hard after Trump. Senator Ted Cruz lambasted the FBI over the treatment of Donald Trump, while also explained what he sees happening with the former president and what is likely to come from the agency. In an interview with Fox News host Sean Hannity, the Texas Republican called the FBI thoroughly politicized and added that the higher-ups are going after Trump so hard because they see him as their enemy. That's exactly what it is. Trump is the enemy no matter what. Orange man bad. Let's go after him. Let's do whatever we can to actually go after him. Hey, Loki. How you doing, dear? Good to see you. And that's what they're going to continue to do. They're going to go after him. as this, they see him as their political enemy. They're not going to step down until or if he gets charged in some way, shape, or form. Now, this current indictment could potentially take a few years to actually go through before we'd actually figure out if Trump was actually legitimately in the wrong. Being that it could take a couple of years, if he does get elected president, he would most likely go ahead and he would just take care of it right off the bat and just be like, nope, I'm now the president. You fuck off. Look, part of the reason the FBI and the DOJ can be so contemptuous of the American people as they believe they will not be called to account, he told Hannity. Senate Democrats certainly don't care about the answers. They don't care whether it's true or not that Joe Biden received a $5 million bribe from a foreign national. Not a single Senate Democrat asked about that. Senate Democrats will not hold a single hearing on that question, and they know that the corporate media will cover it up. And Haiju mentioned none of the corporate media even mentioned the allegations when Joe Biden was asked at a press conference about it. He laughed it off and said, "Where's the money? What? Oh, because you handed it off to your son. It's no longer yours. Don't worry about it." Okay. You know what? Al Capone said the same thing. He's mocking the American people. And let me put something else out, Cruz added. Listen, I don't know whether it's true or false that Biden in fact took this bribe. But do you know? I mean, he doesn't know? Are you kidding me? You don't know. You rhino. But do you know who knows 100% certainty? Joe Biden. And if it's false, he could call in the FBI. He could call direct to the FBI, hand over the 1023, hand over the 17 voice recordings because they will exonerate me. They will demonstrate my innocence. He's not doing that. Instead, his henchmen at DOJ are stonewalling. I asked the deputy director, did you do anything to investigate these credible allegations from the trusted informant? He refused to answer that question as well. This is a rogue agency that is thoroughly politicized, that is thoroughly weaponized. And I got to say, look, you contrast that with the Trump indictment, which is an utter incomplete garbage. Cruz went on to point out that both Biden and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton were found to have classified materials in the possession, but neither was charged. It's because they're on the team. Trump is their enemy. Notably, the FBI is ordered to conduct an unprecedented raid on the home of former President Trump last August. And now, Representative Jim Jordan has revealed some stunning new details about the raid on Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate and the search of classified documents, which came to the heels of Trump's indictment regarding those documents. In a letter to Attorney General Merrick Garland, a letter is this week, the Ohio Republican and chairman of the House Judiciary Committee pointed out these unusual actions taken by the FBI ahead of the raid of Jordan believes require further explanation. Based on details provided by Stephen D'Antonio, a former associate director in charge of the Bureau's Washington office, WND News Service reported. D'Antonio explained that the Miami field office did not do the search of Trump's home. D'Antonio testified that the FBI headquarters made the decision to assign the execution of the search warrant to the Washington field office, despite the location of the search occurring in the territory of FBI's Miami field office. Absolutely no idea why. Why? Because there's a good chance that a lot of that was actually staged. Just saying. Secondly, Jordan noted that DOJ did not assign the U.S. Attorney's Office with the case, which D'Antonio described as unusual. D'Antonio also reportedly said that he raised the question with a lot of DOJ officials, but they never provided him with a good answer. Based upon his over 20-year tenure at the FBI, Mr. D'Antonio testified that he believed that the FBI, prior to the resorting to the search warrant, would have sought consent to search the premises. Jordan went on to explain, as that would have been the best thing for all parties involved. For this rhino to actually kind of be looking the other way and being like, no, this is done and over with. It's gone too far. You've actually pushed it to the point where nobody really seriously believes what's actually happening because of the head turn for Joe Biden and anybody else, Hunter Biden, Hillary Clinton, any of them, any of the things that they've all done wrong on the Democratic side just so happen to be just also okay. But when we look at Trump, it's like, oh no, point fingers, hurry up. So, Loki, if you're still here, you might like this one. Joe Biden. Stabilizer braces make pistol shoots higher caliber bullets. No. What a moron. President Joe Biden boasted the executive push for the new Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives AR pistol stabilizer brace rule and claimed that the braces make pistols shoot higher caliber bullets during the Safer Communities Summit Friday. Biden talked in length about the gun control. Senator John Cronin helped him pass a midsummer 2022 when talked about the executive action against guns that the Democrats referred to as ghost guns. Breitbart News noted that the executive action of ghost guns resulted in an ATF rule that reclassified partially complete pistol frames as that they are considered firearms. Biden then talked about the ATF stabilizer brace rule, saying, "We've made it harder for people to buy stabilizer braces. Put a pistol in a brace, and it turns it into a gun." This guy's a moron. Moreover, he claimed the brace makes it where you can have a higher caliber bullet coming out of that gun. Now, you really can't. I really don't. I'm really seriously, I'm a 2A advocate, but I really don't get into the whole gun thing myself. I own very few and do very little with them. I really don't. It's not something that really entices me to actually go play with them. When it comes down to it, I really don't. I want to actually keep them away from my 3-year-old as long as possible. There's no reason for him to actually need them. Yep, laugh at that, potato. Actually, the AR pistol is a gun in itself. A stabilizer brace is simply a piece of plastic that can be attached to the rear of the gun to help stabilize the pistol when target shooting. The braces are first developed to help wounded combat vets steady a pistol so they can continue to enjoy shooting sports despite their battlefield injuries. A stabilizer brace does not impact the change of the action or caliber of the AR pistol. What a freaking moron. Seriously, guns are really not my thing. I really don't really get into it. It's nothing that I don't sit there and play with them all day long. I really don't. I have very few in the house, and I don't like to actually, say that I even have any just because of what it is. But, at the same time, when it comes down to it, the ridiculousness of them actually going and actually pointing something as ridiculous as saying that a brace will actually allow you to actually use a higher caliber bullet is so stupid. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever fucking ever. I know, go Hagen. I know you're just rolling. So, Gaff Machine in himself, he went ahead and he did something stupid again. He went ahead and he held a speech. He held a speech this past weekend. Hollywood star Eva Longoria recoils, pushes Biden's wandering hands away from the White House event. Hugs on a public stage can be an egregiously awkward affair. Is a hug too intimate? Is a hug too cold? Where is his or her hands going? How long should this hug last? Who initiates the hug? Who ends the hug? Hey Rose, how are you doing? Good to see you, dear. All those questions were thrust in front of the public discourse after an uncomfortable hug was captured on camera between President Joe Biden and popular actress Eva Longoria. On Thursday, Biden and the First Lady hosted a screening of Flamin' Hot dramatized biopic of a man behind the wildly popular Cheetos flavoring and directed by Longoria at the White House. As part of those festivities, which you can see is an entirely below Longoria was in attendance. That's even awkward moment was caught on camera. The 15-minute video is about what you would expect from Biden administration, but the eagle-eyed viewers locked into the curious interaction right at the end of the clip. Such a nice warm embrace by this old potato. You can, she goes, look where really? You're just going to hold her right there? Give her a nice tight squeeze right around the bust. Because, it's all good. It's all good because it's Joe Biden. Joe Biden can do whatever he wants to anybody. And you can see that she actually grabs his hands and she actually goes to move his hands out of the way. Let's move that up a little bit further, I suppose. She's like, get your hands off of me. Just right there, right around the bust. It's all right. It's all right. I'm Joe Biden. I'm the president of the United States. I can do whatever I want. And you can't stop me. And then she's like, yay, Joe Biden, he's the best. Disgusting. The tweeter blasted Biden establishment media for in a blistering post. Joe Biden living up to the predatory history yesterday by groping Eva Longoria at the White House, share it for everyone to see in slow motion because the leftist media won't touch it. If this was Trump, it would be all over the White House, be giving a speech. When you zoomed in and slowed down clip, it appears like Biden's hands are wandering to places they shouldn't be. And Longoria seemingly pulls away and or redirects Biden's hands for him. Because, he doesn't know how to actually control his hands. He doesn't know how to do any of that. You have to actually point him out in everywhere and anywhere that you possibly can. Because he's so demented and disgusting that we just allow it. The comments unsurprisingly were blistering under the viral social media clip. Twitter users blasted Biden for trying to cop a feel, being a groper, and called him a disgusting and despicable. So, I mean, it is what it is. Really sick of this old perv going ahead and doing whatever and whenever he decides that he wants to do such a thing. It's not a both sides problem. Only one party has gone completely off the rails, as you can actually see here. You got, the squad, AOC, Ilhan Omar, disgusting. Sorry to sound like a dinosaur, but I recall when my colleagues and I in the House of Representatives believed we were cutting edge of America's greatest philosophical divide. It is heady time, and class of 1994 is labeled as the majority makers, the first Republican majority in 40 years. It is accordingly easy to assume our policy battles would define the direction of American politics for generations to come. Led by Speaker Newt Gingrich, we engaged the political left, and they expected it majority to last forever. The respective side accordingly fought fiercely over critical issues such as fair capital gains tax rates and questionable federal death tax and likely impacts of multilateral trade impacts, with the merits and unions organizing rights and whether extended Medicaid benefits were a distinctive or to work and whether community activists were exercising undue influence over mortgage organizations within local banks. In football terms, it is the politics played between the 20s, a guns versus butter paradigm familiar with American voters. We had no reason to believe the pivotal issue would change in a material way. We were wrong. Fast forward to today, and between the 20s debates, it seems so outdated. We now operate in a progressive red zone. Indeed, an all consuming woke culture has redefined the ways, the means, and goals of political warfare. The American culture itself, even more confusing, the respective political parties have changed sides on numerous major issues. Newly installed C-suite wokesters have damaged the once strong bond between GOP and the Chamber of Commerce. Dissent and free speech minded 60s liberals are now in the back of milk cartons as cancel happy progressives dominate social media. Private sector blue collar union workers are now a newly reliable part of the Republican base, and I believe it. And believe it or not, the once fiercely anti-war left is aggressively pro-war, while formerly hawkish Republicans have signed on to the new branch of American nationalism that abhors endless war, in really endless wars that we've actually been part of. When we actually look at it, which some of them have actually finally ended or whatever, but Afghanistan for 20 some odd years was ridiculous and unwarranted, in my opinion. And we just, went ahead and just entered into another seamlessly endless war between Russia and Ukraine, which seems to be funded by us, the United States, and NATO in itself, throwing millions, if not billions of dollars in and at that particular war. All of the confusion has led to the interesting false equivalency, one that is becoming increasingly familiar in public debate. My context is political decision. I have many. With moderate liberal friends regarding the sorry state of the politics, it is where I note how progressives have fundamentally changed America's political terrain in that red zone analogy. Through suppression of speech and campus sexualized curricula in elementary schools, to preemption of parental rights in teachers, unions, and promotion of biological men in women's sports, and at which point I am interrupted and told, yeah, both parties are really off the rails. I really don't believe both parties are really that far off the rails. I believe it's more of the, the woke Democrats that are off the rails. And when you look at the other side, it's the rhinos. The rhinos, those Republicans in name only, those are the ones that we need to be paying attention to. Those are the ones that are actually going against, any positive narrative of any sort. My instant diagnosis of Trump-inspired false equivalency narrative that compares an entire social and cultural agenda on one hand to one man's polarizing personality in the other, because one, it's so much easier to deny the reality of woke culture than deal with it. And two, it appears that many left of center voters are simply unable to associate anything regular or normal with the ill-mannered menace from Queens. One further takeaway is equally disquieting. Although progressives see Mr. Trump as today's evil candidate of choice, it is only a matter of 2 or 4 years before a Governor DeSantis or Senator Scott or Ambassador Haley or Vice President Pence or some other right-winger assumes the mantle. Geez, it has already begun. A presenter at the Tony Awards called Governor DeSantis the current Grand Wizard of Florida, just this week. You see, the left needs a demonized Republican in order to engage this plague of both your houses game. If not, they would be required to acknowledge what we in the class of 1994 could never imagine: a progressive agenda, culture, and language that Governor Sarah Huckabee not so long ago simply characterized as crazy. Hard to argue with that one. Bob Ehrlich, a former governor of Maryland, member of Congress and state legislature. He is author of 5 books in American politics and opinions pieces, and appeared in American leading newspapers and periodicals. He and his wife, Kendall, can be seen and heard in their weekly podcast, Bottom Line with Bob and Kendall. The view of this opinion is expressed by the commentary and author and do not reflect the official positions of Daily Caller. Daily Caller trying to cover their butts, and at the same time, I kind of agree with the most of it. That we're not in the same world that we ever had been. Things have changed dramatically across the board. Being one of those that actually came out of the state of Minnesota with a very, very large following of Democrats in my family, I was considered a Democrat in itself. Though I always put myself as independent, it was still always, something that we always just kind of, followed along with. Only recently had I actually woke up to the issue and actually gone to the other side of the realm and, voted for the likeness of Trump in his twice. And yes, it will be a third time if things continue to go the way they are. Another mumbling, bumbling fool. Can you imagine who that would be? Yep, you guessed it. John Fetterman bumbles his way through another Senate hearing. Over and over again, this fool keeps on going into these Senate hearings. He can't even freaking read, nonetheless speak. He can't hold a conversation with anybody. And half the time he comes walking out in his Carhartt sweatshirt thinking that it's okay. You're a representative of the people. Dress accordingly, you old slob. Democrat Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterneck struggled through the hearing of on the I-95 bridge collapse in Philadelphia on Friday. Video shows Democrat Delaware Senator Tom Carper gave Fetterman a chance to comment on the collapse, which caused significant damage in the busy highway. A tanker truck carrying gasoline caught fire while traveling on the interstate Sunday morning, leading to northbound lanes of the highway to crumble. The Pennsylvania senator appeared confused as he formulated a response on the collapse. I would just really like to, the 95, what the fuck kind of sentence is that? I have another word for it: genocidal. Kind of seems that way, doesn't it? Pennsylvania senator mispronounced the word artery and slurred several words in the next portion of the comments. Now, as I speak of these mumbling, bumbling fools as I sit there and I kind of, hit a couple words myself. I'll screw some stuff up, but not every single word in a sentence. I acknowledge the importance of I-95 highway, saying it's important for the entire East Coast and not just the area of the state. It's just a little detour. No big deal. Obviously, you're pretty much preoccupied with the 95. I certainly am too. And we know it's a major artery, not just the Pennsylvania, but for the East Coast. Fetterman's health has been a topic of concern after he suffered a stroke during his Senate run. He started profusely for his first interview after his stroke, and his words required closed captioning. He then struggled to get through the first hearing speech in April after leaving the hospital where he had been treated for clinical depression. The senator appeared to stumble through the questioning of former Silicon Valley Bank CEO Greg Becker in May. we kind of covered that. And, you know, he's just,
Earlier today, some comments about the tragic accident in 995. And if you want to make any comments with respect to that, feel free. You're recognized.
No, I would just really like to, the 95, obviously that, you're pretty much preoccupied with 95. And I know I certainly am too. And we know it's a major artery, not just for Pennsylvania, but for the East Coast. And a lot of Pennsylvanians are worried that the delays in repairs bring to its standstill.
he just can't make a complete sentence and stutters through the whole thing. But yet we're okay with him being one of the few senators for this great United States that we live in. So much hate. Yeah. And that's all I can throw at him is hate. Hate, because Fetterneck really should not be in this position. Now, I remember being on a panel as he was actually debating against the doctor against can't think of his name at this moment or whatever. I didn't believe that either one of them should have been in the spot. I really, really didn't. I didn't think either one of them should have been there, and it should have actually been almost anybody else. That being said, I really do think that his wife, Fetterman's wife, Dr. Oz was the other guy. Fetterman's wife is the one that's really the one that's running the majority of that show. But why? What happened to Fetterneck? Because it's a larger question that needs an answer. What happened to him? He's mentally incapable. He's just simply mentally incapable of doing his job properly. And you could hear it. You could hear it as he stumbled through the whole sentence. And even his assistant, who's sitting behind him, just kind of smiled and looked on, she just kind of, she's like, oops, he messed up. No big deal. No big deal. Ridiculous. Needs to go away. He had a stroke. What caused it? I don't know. We could all make guesses. You could blame it on things like jabby stabbies. We could, or any other, goings on. Just saying. This lady, cackling Kamala Harris. VP Kamala Harris to promote aborting babies in Dobbs' anniversary speech. Of course she would, because she doesn't have any of her own. She doesn't care. Vice President Kamala Harris will mark the first anniversary of the Supreme Court overturning Roe v. Wade by traveling to North Carolina and rallying pro-abortion activists as the state prepares to enact its own law protecting unborn babies. A White House official told The Hill this week that Harris is traveling to Charlotte to deliver a major speech focused on contrasting the Biden administration's pro-abortion efforts with Republicans' efforts to pass supposedly extreme legislation. Harris is also expected to reiterate the White House's support of a federal law codifying the so-called right to abortion, according to the report. North Carolina is currently in the center of ongoing state-level fight over abortion access. The state legislature last month voted to override a veto from Governor Roy Cooper that would have stopped a ban on abortions after 12 weeks of pregnancy from going into effect. With the override, the law will go into effect on July 1st. Harris is also marking the Dobbs anniversary, is sitting down in a televised roundtable discussion. MSNBC's Joy Reid, yay, that should be gay. The Supreme Court ruled 5-4 on June 24th last year to overturn the 1973 Roe v. Wade decision holding the Dobbs case that the Constitution does not include the right to abortion, returning the issue to abortion laws and regulations in the state legislatures. Since then, several Republican-led states have moved to pass laws limiting abortions and hold abortionists and accomplices accountable who violate state abortion laws. That being said, you can see that I'm getting disturbed with it because of the simple fact that we've actually covered, the state, like the state of Minnesota and their abortion law. They've actually gone to the point of saying that, up to the day of birth and or if the mom's knocked unconscious and something happens to the mom, nothing, nobody can be charged with anything or whatever. All is good. Don't worry about it. We can go ahead and just abort the mom while we're at it. All is good. Harris has emerged as the White House leading voice on the issue and has been hosting advocates and reproductive health officials for meeting and connecting with state legislators who are pro-abortion, according to the report. Axios reported in May that Harris was quietly forming a small outside group of women allies to help amplify her role as the White House's leading warrior against Republican-led laws protecting unborn babies from abortion. A Democrat official familiar with the situation told the outlet that 14 women from across the abortion industry and other groups met with Harris, including Butler and Emily's List, Alexis McGill Johnson of Planned Parenthood, and Narrows Minnie Tamarujo. Emily's List is also preparing to spend more than $10 million to prop up an embattled vice president whose approval rating have teetered around the low 40s and mid 30s for much of the President Joe Biden's first term during the 2024 presidential election. It's something that really needed to actually brought up every single time that it's actually that it's talked about, and to have Kathleen Kamala Harris go ahead and go to this rally on pro-abortion. She's so for avowing abortions over and over again. I don't get it. Why would somebody be so into aborting babies that aren't even close to being born or up to being born? Why would somebody even think that's okay? Depopulationists? I mean, that's pretty much what it comes down to. Disgusting. Oh my God, this lady. Yes, we talk about other people. We talk about other people all the time. Karine Jean-Pierre tells what a historic figure she is. Because she gets to actually depict who's a historic figure. She gets to say that she is. Mm-hmm. Job of White House press secretary is supposed to be about providing information from the administration to the people, though some who have held this job have translated that to mean that they should not be transparent when they are asked questions about what is going on. However, Karine Jean-Pierre is not great at her job under either parameter. She constantly searching for a binder for the answers, and even then, the answers frequently seems to be that the reporters have to just contact some other agency for the answer because I can't speak to that. So she rarely speaks to anything of consequence, and ducks responded to any questions and could get her in further trouble. But it's so obvious that it looks bad when she's doing it. So she's not even good at the spin, but she wants to let us know how historic she and Joe Biden's administration are.
A year in this role, there's been a couple of things that has made me incredibly proud. Many things that made me incredibly proud to be at that podium during this historic moment. Again, this is a historic administration. I'm a historic figure, and I certainly walk in history every day. But this is also
I walk in history every day.
Historic making administration because of this president.
Disgusting, disgusting, disgusting. I'm a historical figure, and I currently walking in history every day. Her ego is very disturbing in itself to actually think that she can go to the point of actually believing that she is just, that great. She's a historic figure. Um, let's see here. Oh, Obama. He's decided to actually do something that I believe is unprecedented. You need to go lay down, dude.
No, I want to watch cartoons.
I don't have a TV in here. You gotta go out there and do that. Sorry. Go ask mom. Go ask mom. Sorry about that. Obama suggested plans to combat misinformation should scare us all. She fits in with the rest of the Biden administration. Yeah, historical. So historical. Hey, Mimsy, how you doing? Good to see you. Mophead, yeah. Former President Obama wants the government to be able to track and hunt down Americans by their fingerprints if they dare spread so-called misinformation. During an interview with podcast host David Axelrod, Obama called the implementing of digital fingerprints as a mandatory online requirement to combat misinformation. The Democrat suggested that the government needs a way to track and identify people who spread so-called misinformation online. The CNN podcaster claimed he has seen misinformation, disinformation, and deepfakes targeting the former president, with which Obama agreed, adding that he was the most recorded, filmed, photographed human in history. Most immediately, we're going to have all the problems we had with misinformation before, but this next election cycle will be worse. Obama said, calling for digital fingerprints. Obama referenced the coup vaccine, igniting that the need to combat so-called misinformation online. Obviously, we see this during the vaccination stuff, so I am concerned about it, Obama continued, and I think the best we're going to be able to do is to constantly remind people that this is out there. As the 2024 election creeps up, former president warned listeners that misinformation can be weaponized to discourage voter participation in portraying the election system as anything other than actually what it is. And the need for us, for general, you can see, what these last couple words actually were. Here they are. Yeah. Those ones. And the need for us, for the general public, I think, to be more discriminating consumer or news of information, and need for us to over time develop technologies to create watermarks or digital fingerprints so we know what is true and what is not true. On the contrary, Obama has dabbed in the fair share of spreading misinformation. In 2013, Republicans deemed Obama the winner of having the lie of the year after promising Americans promised that they would be able to keep their health care plans under the ACA. I'm not disagreeing with it, but at the same time, just reading the article. He was also accused of promoting the Russia, despite report revealing Obama knew that Hillary Clinton planned to hurt the goings on of that particular time frame. This one right here. Just saying, when it comes down digital fingerprints, he says, this guy, the handler for current president, they're fucked up, right? Republicans won't stop this train. Just take the steering wheel for themselves. No one is up there is on our side. It kind of does seem that way, doesn't it, Mimsy? Kind of does seem that way. But let's go ahead and let's bring in digital fingerprints, and it was that's not enough for you. That's not enough for you. It's not just Obama that has this issue with it. Look at that. United Nations planning digital ID linked to bank accounts. Huh. Like we didn't see that coming. The United Nations is planning to introduce a global digital ID system that is linked to individuals' bank accounts. The plan, which is similar to the system development of the World Economic Forum, is outlined in 3 new policy briefs from the UN entitled A Global Digital Compact Reform and International Financial Architecture of the Future of Outer Space Governance. The goal of the briefs is to advance UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres' vision in the future. Officially titled Our Common Agenda, Guterres' vision should be given the green light in September 2024 during an event dubbed the Summit of the Future. From the report, digital IDs linked to the bank, linked with bank or mobile money accounts, can improve the delivery of social protection coverage and serve to better reach eligible beneficiaries. Digital technologies may help to reduce leakage, errors, and costs in the design of social protection programs, not unlike their unofficial counterparts over at the WF. The UN also speaks about basically regulating the global digital future. The unelected organization uses phrases such as international cooperation and many stakeholders who will advance principles, objectives, and actions to describe the globalist agenda. The UN describes this goal as open, free, secure, and human-centered digital future. The digital future of envisaged. It's kind of, I think there's a misspelling in there, maybe, potentially. I'm not really sure. But these groups is going to the quite the opposite of open, free, and human-centric. However, as far as the UN vision for future global financial systems, it is supposed to be harmonized with the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. It would be governed by something called the apex body that they yet to be set up. The key actors here would be the UN chief, as well as the group of 20, the Economic and Social Council, and the heads of international financial institution. Within this, the UN sees visions of global digital compact. Essentially, the objective is to have people, devices, and entities all tied up in connected network that could apparently be centrally administered seemingly by unelected bureaucrats. When those planning this future scheme worry about the negative impact, they never see it as potentially affecting everyone, but only civil society or selected groups excluded from social benefits. Meanwhile, the WF is just partnering with the leading biometrics company to advance its own agenda to digitize humanity. Swedish biometrics company Fingerprint Cards has taken a big step into the WEF's new champions community, an assembly of mid-sized enterprises. The WF is keen to promote biometric forms of digital ID and claims the technology would serve as a steward of social inclusion or exclusion. The new champions community schedule includes the meeting of Tianjin, China, in June 27th to 29th during the WF Summer Davos gathering. That's coming up here pretty quick here within the next few weeks. Charles Burgate, Senior Vice President of Strategy of Fingerprint Cards, imparted that he thought that a nugget of wisdom as a proud member of the WF New Champions Community Program, we want to be recognized as the purpose-driven company that contributes positively to the changes needed to operate in the new digitalized world. By joining the community, we look forward to brainstorming and exchanging ideas with peers and bring our expertise in biometric industry. Fingerprint cards faced choppy waters in Q1 of 2023, posting a loss of 70 million Swedish krona, which is $6.4 million in revenue of SEK 117 million or $10.8 million biometric update reported. However, the firm plowed forward, achieving key milestones, including integrating its fingerprint biometrics to 700 Android smartphones and shipping 1 million biometric sensor modules for payment cards. Xiaomi's Redmi K60 secured the distinction of being the first smartphone boosting fingerprint cards under display tech. Xiaomi is Chinese tech company. Interesting that they use that tech company and not, like those of Huawei or any other. The WF, already well versed in the digital tapestry of biometrics, continues to champion the sector. The organization previously inducted Yoti into an associated coalition. So, as far as that goes, so you have Obama pushing for digital fingerprints on anything that we do digitally. And then all of a sudden, they're like, well, digitally, we want to actually go ahead and we want to implement this particular software or type or whatever that would actually be loaded into like your phone or your device that you carry around with you all day long. Which would actually give them rights to your money and be able to shut you off at a whim if they just didn't like speech that was coming out your mouth or whatever it was. They could actually just give it a halt immediately. I bet you don't realize cryptocurrency will be the ultimate tool of this new agenda. Oh, I know, Brian K. Good to see you. Glad you're here. And as far as that goes, yes, cryptocurrency really is something that we've hit on several times. This is not something new to this particular community. Shizzy Wisnut, morning. Gotta go to breakfast is up. Have a great day and stay safe. You as well, brother. Too bad that I didn't see you sooner. Hopefully you caught that before you left. Do I believe that cryptocurrency should actually be a great thing for us? Not necessarily, because of the abilities to actually cut us off, whatever they feel, just for not liking our speech or freedom thereof. With blockchain keeping it never-ending record of you. Yeah, exactly. Not a good thing. I really don't believe it's a good thing. I believe it's going to be a horrible thing for us, and it would actually destroy us as a country. That doesn't matter if the exchange points stay anonymous. Brian. Kind of interesting stuff. It's something that we will continue to pay attention to. Obviously, it's not. We're going to overlook any of that. So then, heavily armored IRS agents raid gun stores, seize firearms purchase records. It's dangerous in itself. The IRS is going to go ahead and is going to go and raid a gun store just because they want to. Heavily armored agents in Democrat President Joe Biden's Internal Revenue Service and Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives have raided a gun store in Montana, according to reports. The unprecedented move saw 20 armed agents raid a gun store at Great Falls and seize all documents and records, buyers' information during firearms transactions, Form 4473. The owner of the store, Highwood Creek Outfitters, blasted the move into the statement to local media. Tom Van Hoos alleges that his store had been under constant surveillance by state and federal agencies for over 2 years. On Wednesday, the gun shop owner reported an unexpected visit from heavily armed IRS agents at his store. The agents reportedly arrived at the shop early in the morning as Van Hoos was opening for the day. We have now confirmed that both the IRS and the ATF were at Highwood Creek Outfitters in Great Falls during 7 a.m. this morning. Both the IRS and ATF would not say why they were there. A spokeswoman for the IRS would only say that they were there for official IRS business. The ATF says it was providing assistance to the IRS. We attempted to enter the store today and were stopped by agents at the door who would only say that the gun store is closed and will reopen tomorrow. According to Hoos, the federal scrutiny began 2 years ago. He says that the effort involved in various agencies, including Federal Bureau of Investigation, Occupational Safety and Health Administration, and Department of Homeland Security, and now the IRS, they must think that we're making a fortune on gun business and investigate us like this, assuming we're hiding thousands, hundreds of thousands, even millions of dollars, Van Hoos told MTN. However, anyone familiar with gun business profit margins would know that's not the case. Van Hoos claims that he has simply told his business had been reported, although he remains in the dark about who reported it or why. He believes that the whole episode is politically motivated. I can only assume that it's because of the style of weapons that we have and the press that's so against them. We could actually see those in the picture that up above. Jesus freaking Christ! You can see some of these rifles that are in this case behind him are those what they consider assault style, which we all know is just a lie in itself. The current administration seems to hell bent on getting those guns out of hands of the average Americans. The day's operations were disrupted, leading to significant loss of revenue. I had about 30 minutes to operate, making just a single $16 sale. Highwood Creek Outfitters are America's largest online firearms and accessories mall, according to the website. The store is known for selling what Van Hoos calls fun guns, including AR-15s and AK-47s. The Great Falls Police Department confirmed that it was informed about the investigation and provided security, according to KRTV. Although the Montana Department of Justice claimed no involvement in the incident, the IRS spokesperson confirmed that the presence of Highwood Creek Outfitters. However, the IRS refrained from providing further details. The recent incident has attracted political attention from Matt Rosendale, expressing his concern over the IRS and ATF's actions. The congressman says he's interpreting the raid as another example of Biden's regime weaponizing the federal agencies against hardworking Americans. I'm incredibly disturbed by the initial report that the IRS and ATF closed Highwood Creek Outfitters without any warning today. This is yet another example of Biden administration weaponizing federal agencies to target, harass hardworking Americans. We cannot allow Biden to continue expanding these agencies to infringe on our liberties. On Friday afternoon, the congressman announced he sent a letter to the ATF director, Stephen Dettelbach, the IRS commissioner, Daniel Warfel, asking for answers. The weaponization of the government must be stopped, which is why I sent a letter to the ATF director, Dettelbach, and IRS commissioner Warfel demanding answers about the outrageous attack. And I've used every tool available to me to remove funding for 87,000 additional IRS agents. Rosendahl joined Newsmax Chris Salcade to discuss the incident. Here's what they took out. IRS financial records, accounting, making sure that what transactions were taking place. No, they took all of the 4473 forms. The 4473 forms are what everyone fills out when they go to purchase a firearm. So, there you go. They didn't go in there to actually go after like tax forms. They didn't go in there to go after anything that had anything really to do with the IRS. They went in there to actually figure out who spent what on what and what kind of guns they have. So when they actually go after these people They know what to expect. Um, it's everyone's ignorance. If there's no trail, your name, it's not with the big assumption. Like the definition. Bye. Okay. Just sounds good. Sounds good. Don't stick around for any other conversation. That's awesome. And it's just a big disclosure to make sure that they have criminal background and other reasons where you should be purchasing a firearm. So the IRS took every single one of the 4473s that Tom Van Hoos had in his possession here in Highwood Creek Outfitters. Again, 4473s, just so they could actually get the names of people's of what they had purchased, so that when they go after the people that they're going after, they know what to expect. That's seriously where I'm going with that. Oh my God, that's wild. They just took the forms to purchase the firearm. Yep, that's all they took. They didn't take anything else. They didn't take anything of relevance to the IRS other than the list of names of people that purchased weapons from said store. This guy scares me. I bring this guy up. I've brought him up a couple times now within the last few weeks or so. We won't really actually get into this. We're actually kind of encroaching that time frame or whatever. Cornel West presidential run could be Joe Biden's worst nightmare. This socialist in himself of Cornel West, really seriously, maybe not the best person for the job. He might be that thorn in the side of Joe Biden, as there's a lot of people that actually took to Cornel West and actually thought that he was just a cool dude. 4473s are supposed to be destroyed after 5 to 10 years or something like that. I thought they were only required to be held for a few years by the gun store. I mean, even if that was 5 to 10 years, or if it even was just a year or two, you still think that they'd have a nice stack of these, so that the IRS would know who actually owns what, when, and where, and why, and for them to actually take them. They're not going to give them back. That could be dangerous in itself, as the gun store won't know or have formed themselves of that particular purchase. We're not going to speak of Cornel West anymore. I really don't like the guy. I think that he's dangerous. He's dangerous for this country, and he needs to go away. I really do. I really do believe so. Do have a few more things here. Yeah, and I'm kind of actually flipping through some of it because I really don't want to go very much longer. I want to try cutting myself off by the end of this hour if I can. Wearing shirts saying there are only two genders, not protected speech, judge says. So this young man's been dealing with this for a couple months now. Gets shut down on his freedom of speech. School administrators were not infringing on students' constitutional rights when they ordered him to remove a shirt that said there are only two genders. Massachusetts middle schooler Liam Morrison's lawyers said that the order violated his First Amendment rights to free speech and his 14th Amendment right to due process. But U.S. District Judge Indra Talwani said the violations have not been proven. The school permissibly concludes that the shirt invades the rights of others. Talwani, an Obama appointee, said schools can bar speech that is in collision with the rights of others to secure and be let alone. Talwani said, quoting that the 1969 ruling of Tinker v. Des Moines Independent School District. That means the administrators appropriately exercise their discretion when concluding that statement may communicate that only two gender identities, male and female, are valid, and only others are invalid or non-existent, and to conclude that students who identify differently, whether they do so openly or not, have a right to attend school without being confronted by messages attacking their identities. Should we do a poll? 30 people watching? We do a poll. We'll do a poll, see how many people actually go ahead and hit this poll. Let's ask the simple question. How many genders are there? Two. One more. There you go. Here's your poll. Go ahead, hit the poll. Oops. Ask the queenie. Go ahead, hit the poll. Reach to the top of it. And select which one you actually believe is true. Great Liquor, I see you over the Cornell West is racist. Yeah, for sure, definitely is. I mean, I didn't give you very many options on the poll. It was more of a see how many interact with it, whatever. I don't see a 420. How about in 2 minutes? After the first arrests for hate speech around Euro in Canada, I knew could come from the US, but never imagined it would be this quick. It is kind of insane. It's insane to actually see how far this has actually gone. Taiwanese ruling rejected a request from the boy for temporary restraining order that would have stopped administrators from prohibiting the student from wearing the shirt at John T. Nicholas Middle School. The case has not been thrown out until Taiwan could ultimately rule that in the boy's favor. Tyson Langhofer, Senior Counsel Director at the Center of Academic Freedom and Alliance Defending Freedom, who is helping defend the plaintiff, said that the ruling was disappointing. Public school officials cannot censor a 7th grader's free speech by forcing him to remove a shirt that states the scientific fact. Doing so is a gross violation of the First Amendment, and will be appealing this ruling to the First Circuit Court of Appeals. Lawyers of the defendants, which include acting principal Heather Tucker and Middleborough Public School Superintendent Carolyn Lyons, did not return an inquiry. First Amendment expert Eugene Volk said the ruling does not appear to be consistent with the Tinker ruling, which held the school officials in Iowa illegally ordered students to remove armbands amid protests against the Vietnam War. Lawyer Hans Bader, who is not involved in the case, said that the ruling was wrong, noting that the previous cases had upheld students' rights to convey messages as long as they were vulgar or likely to cause disruptions, including a ruling in favor of wearing a shirt that said, "Be happy, not gay." And which is fine. You can be what you want, really can, but stop pushing it on our children. Teach them actual biology, that there's only two genders, just two. There's only two. I don't care who's out there that says differently. You're wrong. It's only two. The judge suggested that the t-shirt interfered with other students' right to attend school without being confronted by messages attacking their identities, but other courts have refused to recognize the right to attend school without being confronted by messages attacking one's identity when the messages don't disrupt school and don't involve independently torturous speech like libel, slander, and intentional infliction of emotions distress. We don't need the background of the case. We've actually covered it several different times. I think we all kind of understand that now that they're actually trying to rule that it's that it doesn't actually infringe on his own speech, and that he can't wear it in any way, shape, or form, could actually be disturbing in itself and horrible. Oh my Lord. I'm going to try kicking this over just a little bit quicker. We've hit the major topics that were in the title. Some of these other articles are really just kind of interesting, potentially interesting news, kind of disturbing news. Like this: man plunges over 4,000 feet to his death at the Grand Canyon. 33-year-old man fell more than 4,000 feet to his death Saturday at the Grand Canyon in Arizona, according to a report. At around 9 a.m. local time, the Mojave County Sheriff's Office responded to reports that the person had fallen over the skywalk in an attraction of the canyon's tours complex, allowing visitors to walk over the canyon's more than 4,000-foot drop. A helicopter was deployed down into the canyon, and responders found the man had died from the impact of the fall. Of course he did. 4,000 feet. Man's remains were transferred to the facility of Halapai Nation, a local indigenous community. The investigation into the man's death has been launched, though it is unclear whether or not the man committed suicide. The Mojave County Sheriff's Office has been contacted with request for comment. Kind of sick and disturbing in itself. You know, suicide rates have actually increased quite a bit. And for him to decide to take the 4,000-foot plunge to actually, you know, end himself, or whether he was pushed or any other reason whatsoever, I would almost assume, just in my own opinion, that he would have actually passed out somewhere about halfway down before he would have actually come close to impact, which would have ended his life. Either way, that freedom of just, you know, letting go and being able to, you know, fall as long as he wasn't pushed and wasn't panicked, may have actually been an interesting sight in itself. As you look at that picture, you can see the mountains, and then you can see that canyon that's right below, and you can see that depth and how far it would actually take him to actually. It's very, very sad. Exactly. For somebody to actually take themselves to a national park per se to actually do such a thing is scary and disturbing in itself. Yes. There's a few things left. There is a few things left here. I got 3 articles that we will actually present. So schools in themselves. Why 2 Philly students got humiliated at a high school graduation. When you have rules and regulations on how you can actually do certain things and you go against them, you pay the consequence. And that's the only thing that I can say, that you do pay the consequence. This is a special time for millions of high school seniors. They're graduating. Most are heading off to college, but the 12th grade signals the end of their formal education. Yet, in Philadelphia, which has recently become the epicenter of disaster, one school refused to hand out diplomas to 2 girls because audience members either clapped or laughed in the procession to the podium. I'm not kidding. There are rules for graduation in Philadelphia high schools for girls. There's a 175-year-old protocol where everyone must remain silent lest they risk humiliation from the principal, who will refuse to hand you or your diploma. 2 students, Hafsa Abdul Rahman, 18, and Solomay Birch, 18, were forced to walk up and take their seats. No diploma for their antics at graduation, the latest victims of the embarrassing reprimand. Abdul Rahman committed a heinous offense of doing the gritty when her name was called. This student was marred by health problems all year. In her special moment, was suffocated by protocols that are Handmaid's Tale-esque. Birch flipped her hair when her name was announced, leading to the family's members clapping. She was also denied getting her diploma on stage. Not that they didn't give them their diplomas, they still earned them. They still get to take them with them. The problem is what they actually did to not get it handed to them was more than enough. So then here's the young lady that dances, and
Hafsa Abdur Rahman.
so apparently it didn't want me to play the video. It said, nope, don't play that video. So we won't attempt to actually play the video again. But these two young ladies were actually, denied their diplomas. One decided to actually do a little what they called the gritty, as she actually danced across the floor. And then the next actually goes and flips her hair, causing an uproar in the audience to actually stop her from actually being able to receive the diploma on stage, which took away, photo opportunities and whatever else as they actually were able to receive them. Kind of disturbing in itself to actually think that they could actually do something so ridiculous. But then at the same exact time, when we actually think about it, this is a rule that's been put in place for a long time. Did I say 147 years or something? 175-year protocol. 175 years ago, when they actually wrote this law, they put it in their own graduation reprimands. If you did this, you caused any kind of uproar, no, you were going to be denied being handed your diploma right off stage. So basically what happens after she actually does the dance, because she actually causes the audience to actually say something, as she walks up to the principal that was getting ready to hand her diploma, goes and says, go ahead, go sit down, without handing her the diploma, and then goes and sets it in a basket underneath the podium, which would be if for like no shows, people that weren't there, they pretty much just went ahead and they marked it as just that, as a no show. So it's kind of a disturbing revelation in itself to actually believe that they would actually go to the point of doing such a thing. I would almost think that these young ladies would actually go to the point of actually going after the school, just because of the way things have gone these around this time frame or whatever of our existence, where they're like, oh, that's 175 years ago. We're not the same as they used to be. We should be able to do whatever we want. We can dance, we can sing, we can cause an uproar if that's what we want to actually do. Still 21 of you with me? hit that like button for me if you can. That'd be great. Here we go. Let's go ahead and come on. We had spoke of aliens, UAPs in Nevada. We did some other stuff to go along with other unidentified aerial phenomena or UFOs or other likenesses. Here you go. Alien in New York video sparks fresh speculation about UFOs in the United States. So then, in this cornfield, look, you can see it. You can see it. They caught photo of it. That's nothing else but an alien, of course. More so-called footage of aliens on Earth has gone viral on social media. This time supposedly shows an extraterrestrial in the backyard of New York. The footage comes just days after the family of Las Vegas reportedly found aliens in their property before it was widely debunked by fact checkers as nothing more than CGI. There had also been false claims that the family in question had gone missing, which is quickly dismissed. Inevitably, another video now gone viral on TikTok, racking up more about 300,000 views at the time of the writing. The footage is shared to the account of the paranormal chick. It claims to show a man in New York who has apparently found an alien in his backyard. Moose. Is that you? As the searches the creature in a flashlight, we get a brief glimpse of the alien before it disappears. The man does call out to the alien, which eventually reappears and clearly walks across the frame before again disappearing. Safe to say that the footage hasn't left everyone convinced. Ha 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 ha. He's got clothes on, one person quipped. Another joked, looks like Karate Kid. A third added, bro, is wearing a black turtleneck in the middle of the field like a hipster that's got lost in the way of jazz club. It's from the Planet Party Hardy costume and party supply. Oh, moose. A third added, bros, however, some were willing to believe it's real. They called the little gray 4 to 4.5 foot tall. Really? What happened to 8, 9, or 10 feet? They went and they found some short dude to do it. The second person added, I had the same thing happen to me while playing with my dog at 1 a.m. I bet. The third said, they are now everywhere. This comes amid a flurry of UFO-related news, such as the South Pole apparently being a form of air traffic control for aliens, and an ex-NASA astronaut claiming that aliens prevented a nuclear war on Earth. Of course they would. Why? Because if we actually had aliens on the planet Earth and they actually came and showed themselves, we may actually go to the point of actually being like, well, we're all humans. Let's take on the foreign entity, these aliens, as opposed to, taking on each other. It could be something to actually think about and something that's very interesting in itself. One last thing, and anybody that didn't stick around for it, that's your fault. I hopefully you can actually put your claim in, as I already put my claim in. It says you're likely eligible for be part of a $23 million Google settlement. People who use Google search between 2006 and 2013 could be eligible for a portion of a $23 million settlement in a class action lawsuit against the big tech giant. Google is accused of sharing users' search queries with third-party websites and companies without their consent from October 25th, 2006 to September 30th, 2013. According to a notice of proposed settlement in a class action suit, while Google has not made any admissions of wrongdoing, they have agreed to enter the settlement PDF to avoid burdensome and costly litigation, according to the Kroll Settlement Administration, which is involved in the proceedings. The class action lawsuit is called INRI Google Referrer Header Privacy Litigation Case number 510 CV4809 EJD, pending in the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of California. The court has final approval hearings scheduled for October 12th, 2023 in San Jose Courthouse. Google did not immediately return the request for comment from the settlement. What does the settlement provide? Under the terms of the settlement, Google will pay a total of $23 million in payments for settlement class members and their representatives, as well as attorney's fees and administration fees. Also, Google will exchange its frequently asked questions in key terms web pages to explain in detail circumstances under which search queries were shared with third parties using referrer headers. Who is eligible? If you use Google search and clicked on the search link between October 25th, 2006 and September 30th, 2013, you are considered a settlement class member. Didn't take much. Did you search Google? Did anybody here use Google for any point in time in between 2006 and 2013? I'm going to actually end the other poll. Let's see how well you guys did. 2, 2, and 2. 62% said 2, 25% said 2, and I'm sorry, 25% said no more than 2, and 12% said 2. Thank you for the 8 voters that actually voted on that. And we'll give you one last poll. Did you search Google between 2006 and 2013? If you say yes to that, I would totally implore you, if you get the option to check this website out from the Epoch Times, if you can read it, get yourself in there, go check it out. And actually go ahead and hit up the links. There's links that are in here. So this is how to apply. The only way to receive payment from a settlement from claim of July 31st, 2023, one way, file the claim as registry and obtain a class member ID at the settlement site. You click the settlement site link, it actually brings you to that site, and it actually gives you the ability to collect an ID number, which gets put in, that you can actually go back and put in, saying that you actually part of this class action lawsuit, which anybody that knows anything about class action lawsuits, you have the potentiality of actually getting some money. It says individuals who submit the approved claim stand to receive approximately $7.70. Wrong, Jay-Z. You were wrong. You're wrong by 30 cents. It's so close, though. So close. But now, if you think about it, if not every single person went and filed a claim on it that actually did something, you could potentially make more. It's just an interesting little thought, little idea. For y'all to actually, maybe check it out. I mean, maybe be worth the 2 minutes of your time to collect the ID number and put it in and actually become a member of this class action lawsuit against Google and get your $7.70. Get it. You want it. Anybody else got anything they'd like to share before we go? We're going to actually end the poll here real quick. End the poll. How many people actually went and voted? 3 votes. All 3 of you said yes. You did search between 2006 and 2013. $7.70 equals a gallon of gas. Yeah, maybe in your city. Mine, I get 2. Mimsy, thanks, Night, Frog, Moose, and all. Later, Mimsy. While you go, we're going to do the same. Thank you also very, very much for being here tonight. If you haven't done so already, please share this to your favorite platforms, social media sites, wherever. Let all your friends know where you like to hang out at night. We do talk to everybody. If you actually caught that, we talked to every single person that was in chat tonight, like we do every single night. Just open up to us, share with us your thoughts, your opinions, and we will actually go ahead and actually speak with you. Hey, Crystal Clear, how you doing, dear? Good to see you. Good day to you. We are going to actually take off. Thank you also very, very much for being here. Hit that like button on your way out. Love y'all. Later.
I don't want to live on this planet anymore.